Hello, welcome to the Story Yourself channel. I just thought I'd post a video here because in the coming weeks I'm going to have some conversations with some friends, and if you're wondering what links them all together, here it is. I am a storyteller. I'm an oral storyteller, so I'm used to working with folktale and myth. I read lots of books about archetypal imagery, about kind of intellectual unfoldment. This is Promise Not Pre-Prepared. This is like on my desk. And this is also on my desk, Poems of Hafiz. So I spend a lot of my time thinking about human imagination and its place in history and how it's unfolded through time. I love storytelling. I love the atmosphere in a storytelling space. They're places of community. They're places of, imagination, but, you know, in the way that reading a book like this would, the thing that people love about a book instead of seeing a film is that the book relies on their own imagination. Thing I love about oral storytelling, so I'm telling a story from the Brothers Grimm or from Celtic mythology, is that you have that same effect, but a whole room is doing that together. So everyone's relying on their own imagination, but at the same time, it's a collective experience. And that's really powerful. It means that oral storytelling has been a witness to human history in a way that few other fields are. We've lost a lot of stories. You can't, obviously, if it's orally, it could have been written down, but it's not the same as the oral, the richness of the oral folktale. So there's this permanent idea of having lost something, and this sense of balancing on the edge of human attention. And I guess that's what as storytellers, we're always looking like. How can I bring something from the past that is so fundamentally important right here into the present in a way that's relevant, in a way that's beautiful, that's engaging, that makes us see the world through different eyes. Yeah. So I got into storytelling about 10 years ago. It was after I'd moved to Amsterdam. And there's a space which is completely thriving now. It always was thriving, but it's going gangbusters, called the Mesrab. And the Mesrab then, and I think still is, the kind of place where you could just walk in and tell a story, and that was it. And I loved it there. So I got up after a few times. I started telling stories because I had a sort of a little bit of a background in theatre, and it felt so easy and natural to me that I thought I just wanted to do this for the rest of my life. I was telling stories about my own life originally, and then that progressed into folktale and myth. And originally it was started telling stories from the Mahabharata, and then I don't know what I told next, but I told other stories. Yeah. It was around about the same time that I started my own business, which was just because I could write words for businesses. I'd done so in Philips. But it was about that time that storytelling started to emerge as a sort of powerful currency. People started to realize, this is around 2011, 2012, where what you really needed was, rather than your marketing messaging, you needed a story that held everything together. This story had to do a few things. It needed to sell your product. It needed to make your whole product, make your whole business make sense. And it also needed to move people. So without even realizing it, I sort of, because I had experience in storytelling, I launched my own little storytelling business, and it was called Words That Change. And then it's called Story Yourself. And I've given workshops and given speeches to well over 10,000 people over the last 10 years. And it was just sharing the ease, the richness, the lightness that I found in storytelling. So that's how Story Yourself came about. But now, here we are in the middle of COVID-19, There are no workshops, there are no performances, there are a lot of questions about how we're going to live. And kind of over the years, what I've been finding in storytelling is not, I wouldn't say it has the answers, but it's a really good place to start asking questions from. If you think about the stories that have unfolded through time, thinking about Tristan and Isolde, King Arthur, the folk stories, they've shown us what has been maintained for hundreds, thousands of years. And in a moment of rapid evolution, they're not asking us what should we stay the same, but they're also saying how should we change? How can we change? Stories themselves are messengers of change. They're fields of change. We can see our own values in them. We can see how those values could be interpreted, be altered. And I think stories challenge us at their best about what our own values are. They're not an instruction manual. They're more radical than that. They're the idea that inside you is enough wisdom to deal with whatever situation you face. And stories work as a little woodpecker, tap, tap, tapping on the hard tree trunk of your heart, whatever you've put there to cover yourself up from the harshness of reality. The story is a little reminder, tap, 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 tap. What have you got in there? Let's remember, let's remember. That's what the stories do. So I've launched this channel to share that philosophy, but it's not going to be one-to-ones. I'm going to talk with other storytellers. The first one I did last week with Jan Blake, and she made this very powerful comment. If you haven't seen it, please check it out. She's such a passionate, wise woman, and it's like the things that she says, she really lives them. She said, like, as a storyteller, I don't have any other right to tell anyone else how to live. But what I can do is be sensitive in the story. I'm paraphrasing, she used better words. I can be sensitive to what really moves me in the story, what I find amazing, what I find wonderful, full of wonder. She used the word wonder. And I guess that's what storytellers do, is like any art form. Yeah, we become really just honest with our own reactions to things, and then hopefully help people to navigate their own responses, ask questions about, how do I deal with love? How do I maintain long-term relationships in a world that's celebrating, youthful romantic love? How do I balance, one of the areas that I'm particularly involved in, how do I balance the demands of fulfilling my creative potential with the need for getting paid? So this is a channel not of answers, it's of questions. But it is going to be a conversation between storytellers. And it's not because we know better than anyone else how to live, but we do have a way of asking questions and not being too dogmatic and not saying that this is what something means, but maybe showing how stories can be applied. I was chatting with a friend last night called Andreas Corneval. He's a magnificent storyteller, particularly specialist in Norse myth, based in the UK. And he was talking about Tolkien, who was a Norse mythologist himself, and he was saying that his quality was to free his own stories from meaning. And that he didn't talk about metaphor, he talked about applicability. Is that we need to look at stories about how they can be applied to our lives, and not have these stupid conversations about, well, the interpretation, the true or the one true interpretation of this, is this very particular thing. I think stories are showing us a rotation of perspectives. They're rotating perspectives to see like where we stand, what is solid, what can you actually rely on. And what you find in the stories is that you can't rely on things. You can't rely on objects. You can't rely on philosophies. Concepts fade away. But probably what you can rely on more than anything else is qualities. So honesty, luck, freedom, intuition, generosity, love. And they show us what these things look like as lived by people in our imagination. And they show the challenges that people face who want to live these qualities of luck, of generosity, of love, all these kind of things. So I don't know if this is my last one-to-one chat. I've got a lot to say, so maybe it is. But in the coming weeks, I'm going to have conversations with people very close to me. I don't want to reveal their names until it's 100% confirmed. But we're going to talk about COVID-19 and the coronavirus. We're going to make many digressions into parts of folktale and mythology. Like, some of it might seem a bit abstract and esoteric for a general audience, but the whole point is how do these stories help us to understand life? How do these stories help us to understand work? How can I live my life better? How can I enjoy myself more? How can I be comforted by the dynamics of life as told through these stories? I'm pretty sure there'll be stories told along the way. I'm going to share most of this as a podcast. I'm also going to open up a Patreon channel where you'll be able to share exclusive, you'll be able to have content in return for some support for my research and my storytelling. It's a real pleasure to have you along. If you enjoyed this video already, then we're going to have a great and giggly time. What I can promise is the quality of the guest is going to be off the scale. And I hope the quality of the conversation is very high. I would love to hear from you. What do you want to see on the channel? What interests you? I want to know what your questions are about life. What are you thinking about at the moment? COVID-19, what has that brought into relief for you? What does that say to you about the world? We can feed it into the conversations. Some people are seeing this as a sort of a chance for a massive load of creativity. They say finally they've had the space to write the books that they're doing. I've started with some writing that I've had on my mind for a while. Other people are finding it a massive burden and they just can't take it, and other people are just like overwhelmed by the hugeness of the circumstances, let alone the threat to life, but also how we threats to income, threats to personal relationship. There are a lot of people have issues with domestic abuse. Now we've heard that that's on the rise very challengingly. So please share with me in the comments below what you want to see on this channel, what you're thinking about. If you have questions for upcoming guests, I really look forward to walking along together. Please do subscribe to the channel, and we can create it together. We can make it something that the world can be proud of. Maybe a little micro version of the world, but a little bit of the world. So let me know how you are, who you are, and I'll be back again soon with a guest.